Hello and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. As always, you are joined by me, Rick, and my wonderful co-hosts, Alex and Paula.
Hey.
This week, as with... Hey.
Just want the people to know that I'm alive.
Hey, guys!
I'm alive. All right, ahead.
This week, as always, we're going to talk about what we've beaten, retired, and been playing. As always, we're going to have a topic. This week, it is remasters. We're being quite topical this week because, in case any of you missed it, there's a little game called Skyrim that's coming out again. More on that later, though. And we will finish up GTA. And there's literally going to be no time for a question. We know that well in advance, knowing what we're like. So we're going to not even promise that at the outset. And we're just going to go straight to what, if we're honest, you've all come for anyway. How long to beat?
The game.
2.5 of us went for that.
I wasn't ready.
Oh, you were too ready on the introductions, and then you weren't ready enough on the how long to beat the game.
You get one. You get one. None else.
But I mean, how long has it taken you to beat all the things you've beaten, Alex? Let's not bury the lead. Tell us all about all the things.
Yeah, so I've beaten a lot. Just so people know, like I have like a vacation week before I go back to my BED. So right now I'm just working at the moment, but I only teach part-time in the evenings. So it's like not that bad. So I've been playing a lot of games over the last while. And I've just gone through a shit ton. They're not all very long though, to be fair. I beat Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Switch. I don't have a lot to say about this because like it's a replay. I love this game a lot. It's excellent. It's one of the only Zelda games I've ever replayed. Like I've played Link's Awakening now. This is probably the third or fourth time I've played this game. Second time I played the replay, like the remake. And I've played the original Game Boy one. And it's so lovely. The whole thing is just, it's so cute. It's so kind of gorgeous. It is obtuse as shit at times, I will admit. Like even as someone who's replayed it many times, there are moments where I go, wait, the fuck am I supposed to do now? You're like, oh, right, I gotta go do that really random thing where I have to go visit that library in order to find out you know, it's like stuff that you're just like, how would I have known that I'm supposed to do this? Like there's not even an indication that you're supposed to do that anywhere. And so you just kind of have to like figure it out, I guess. But the world's so small that I think they kind of assume like, hey, you can go explore and you'll figure it out. I love that, like the big quest that takes you all across the game, like the big exchanging quest where you like keep exchanging items to people. Like it's kind of dumb, but at the same time, it's just so much fun because it makes that whole world feel like lived in, because you're like meeting people here who's like, oh, I need that thing. And then you're switching it off. And like, I don't know, there's something kind of quaint about it because it's like not that it could be annoying if you get stuck, to be fair. Like you definitely want to be talking to everybody as you're playing the game, because if you get to a point where you're like, shit, I need an item, and then you have to like backtrack this like exchange quest, that could be real annoying. But on replays, it's just really cute. So anyway, that was Link's Awakening on the Switch. Good time. I highly recommend it. I also beat Osu Tatakae Ouendan, which is this. It's before Elite Beat Agents, right? So Elite Beat Agents is the Western version, and this was the game that kind of popularized, created the reason we have Elite Beat Agents. It basically means like, sir, fight, cheerleading squad. Like that's like basically the name, because like Ouendan are a cheer group essentially, and it's like big burly dudes in these like black suits. So you can see how they turned it into agents, because like they wear these like black suits for cheer, but like you can tell that turns into like a suit and tie easily for the agents one. I'll put it this way, like Elite Beat Agents is the best of them because it's in English and you'll be able to understand it. But that being said, this one's never been translated either, because
you almost don't need to, like, as long as you can see the numbers to do the motion.
You don't need to at all. And it's comic book style. Like I have a decent understanding of written Japanese, so like I can read it fairly well. So I understood to an extent, but it's pretty fast. So even I was missing stuff, but like I understood the gist of the story. But also the problem is that it's all in pictures. So to redo the text, you would have to literally recreate all of the image. It would be a fucking nightmare. Like to try and retranslate this as just a project. And because it's so not worth it anyway, because it's a rhythm game, it's like, there's no point. You might as well just play it. You'll have a really good time. The songs are bangers. I mean, they're all Japanese, but like they're good and they were fun. And I was like, I'm digging it. Obviously, Elite Beat Agents has English songs, like they're covers of popular songs. But
it's also got a pretty shit track list. Like the only one that jumps out at me, because I played that game and thought it was pretty meh, was Earth, Wind and Fire September.
Yeah.
That was the only song that I remember being like, oh, this is a bop. And all the other songs were like, all right.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I liked it mostly because I love the rhythm game style of it. Like, I'm a big fan. It's very fun. Like, I got really good at Elite Beat Agents. Like, I beat that game on the impossible setting because I fucking loved it so much. And it's hard, man. It gets really hard at a certain point. So yeah,
but not impossibly so.
No, exactly. Not quite. Nice. There's also a sequel, which is it's just called like Moru something, Ouendan. So it's just more of it. I'll probably play that as well because I hacked my soft modded my 3DS. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to play this game. So here we go. Because I loved Elite Beat Agents as a kiddo. I'll probably replay Elite Beat Agents actually now that I've gotten into it. It takes a couple hours. It took me like I did it in one sitting. It was like 2 to 3 hours or something like that. And I just beat it. And I was like, oh, okay.
It is a short completion. I remember it being a couple of hours as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get real good at the game, yeah, it takes longer, but you can beat it in one sitting. Well, no, yeah. I also beat Fire Emblem, The Blazing Blade. I like Fire Emblem. I do. But like... you know,
Is this one of those cases where you say play it, don't complete it?
Yeah, honestly, because there's no point. Like, you can complete it, it's fine. But like, okay, this is the inherent issue with Fire Emblem, and I actually think the newer game has fixed this quite a bit. But okay, the conceit is that obviously, if a unit dies, they're gone forever. So this introduces some interesting wrinkles into the game design of Fire Emblem, because on one hand, I barely know anyone who has never reset when a person has died, because it's just like, that's how you play the game. You're like, no, I would not allow it. Especially because you're going to miss stuff, right? So you don't want them to die. But then there are some who will play it that way, which means that realistically, you don't want to like soft lock your game, right? Like you want to make sure that people can beat the game if they lose units. So you're introduced to new units as you go along. But eventually you hit a point where they always have like a major boss near the end of the game who's just like so stupidly powerful that they basically just have to give you a dude who can beat it. Like that's like essentially it. And you kind of have to like find like, how do I cheese this shit? So like, I've never been a huge fan of that because like, what's so enjoyable about Fire Emblem is the strategy, right? It's like the tactics. It's planning out your stuff. And then you get to the end thing where it's like, all right, which of my fucking units is super strong and has a stupid spell that's really fucking broken? Oh, this one? All right, that's the guy you know what I mean? Like, it like gets to the point where you're like, it's not even strategy anymore because it's one powerful unit, right? Which is like, what's annoying because you can't obviously use all your units at once. So anyway, I don't know. I just found the end of this game. I was like, I'm just doing this so I get roll credits basically now. Everything else was crazy fun because it's Fire Emblem and I love it. But yeah, near that end there, I was like, and I'm noticing with these earlier Game Boy Advance games, you might as well just pick a couple people you really like and only ever use them, because then you're just going to level them up really well and you're going to get through nicely. Because like what I found near the end was like, I was doing a thing where I was experimenting with units and then I was like, oh, I've kind of fucked myself. I have to grind now because I can't kill things. So I was like, great. So yeah, I don't know. They give you multiple freaking types of units, you know what I mean? Because it's the multi-wheel thing. There's like, here's all your horsemen. You obviously only need one or two. Here's all your archers. You should only use one. Like, you know what I mean? Because they're going to need all the experience they can get. Anyway, I don't know. Did you play this one, Paula? I don't know. You haven't played the GBA ones yet, have you?
The Blazing Blade, actually, I played about 7 or 8 chapters of
you did the Lin campaign.
Of the Lin side, yeah, and I was having so much fun, and I had to turn off my console, and then I turned it back on again, and the save was gone. So
fuck. The Lin campaign's fun, and then the Ellawood campaign is fine. it's dragons, you know? It's Fire Emblem. It's going to be about dragons. Like, that's just what, like, as the more Fire Emblems I play, I'm like, oh, they're all exactly the same. Okay. And I think that's why I like the 3DS ones and like moving onward, because it seems as though they were starting to change, at least. Like the stories were a little different, but I noticed the earlier ones had very similar plot points. But I don't know, maybe that'll change. I am going to play its sequel, which never came out here, The Binding Blade, with Roy. Also, how shitty must that have been if you were playing the GBA back in the day? Because like Melee was out, I think, or was soon to be out, and you would have known who Roy was. And so you play this game, and at the end they're like, and here's anyway. This isn't a spoiler. Eliwood is Roy's father. It's a prequel. Maybe it is a spoiler. I don't fucking know, but who gives a shit? The main characters in these games are nobodies. They have no personalities. They're just heroes. To be honest, not to put too much shade on the game, but like Eliwood is just like, I am a righteous dude. He's like that kind of guy. Hector's interesting. It's always the side characters. The main one's not as much. But anyway, at the end of the game, they're like, and here's Roy. And it's like setting up for the next game. Like it really, really specifically sets up for the next game. Like explicitly so. And it never came here. So like I imagine if you were a kid playing this, you're probably like, oh, like excited for the next thing. It's just like, sorry, kid, you'll never get to know.
Or be
like
sort of
out of
defeating your own point because you're like, oh, the characters are nobodies, but also they put a lot of effort into setting the nobody up.
Yeah, no. The main character. That's the thing. The other characters I actually think are fairly interesting. Like the villain they were setting up. Actually, I'm like, oh, cool. That's kind of like a character you meet in Fates, and I was like, oh,
I'll
sick.
retract my sass then. I'll reel it back in.
No, that's my fault. I should have been more specific. Sorry, Paula, were you going to say something?
Oh, out of all the GBA games to not localize, they didn't localize the right one. The one character besides Parth that was known out of the Fire Emblem games at that point.
Right, it was Roy. Like, or why not? Yeah, why not like make Eliwood? I don't know. You could have made a skin, honestly, in Melee of Roy as Eliwood, like just to color turns it because they look the same. I mean, they're a little different, but red-headed. Anyway, I hear Sacred Stones is the best of the GBA ones, so I look forward to that. I think I'm just going to very slowly play these games. Like, I'm gonna take a break for a little while because the beauty of this is like you could race through all the Fire Emblem games and hate them, or it's like there's so many of them that like I can just slowly sprinkle a Fire Emblem game every few years or like every few months, you know what I mean? And be like, oh, nice, come back to it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prioritize the Game Boy Advance ones, and then I'll hit up the two DS ones because I got a translation for the one that never came here. Because on the DS there was two as well, but only one came here, and that was the one with Martha. And there's another one that was kind of like a sequel-ish something. I don't know. Anyway, didn't come.
Yeah, it's remakes of the first two, isn't it? And the first one got a localization. The second one's just a fan.
Well, the second one, yeah, because it's weird. The official second one is Shadows of Valentia, because that's the remake of the second game.
The 3DS one, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I can't remember. It's like third-ish or something. I don't know. The order of the games is strange. There's two games that never really have had a remake. There's Thracia 776, I think, or something like that, which just never had one, and there's like another one after that, like two SNES games that have never been remade. So hey, those might be coming. Who knows?
I was trying to think. It was the original Fire Emblem, then Tales of Valentia, then Mystery of the Emblem, and that has a DS
the
remake.
New Mystery of the Emblem. That's the one that never came here.
Yeah. Thracia, there was another one, I think, and then it was like the Roy game, the Link game, and the Sacred Stones game.
Yeah, it's Genealogy of the Holy War.
That one.
That name rings
that
a bell.
one, yeah, that never got a re-release. It never got a remake. And Thracia 776, yeah, those two are the ones that have never had a remake, or like before the GBA era, basically. They've just never had anything done on them, but they're on the SNES, so I bet they stand out pretty good on their own, honestly. And I'm sure there's translation patches of them out there somewhere.
Yeah, I actually think I got the translation patch for those. So
there are translation patches actually. Yeah, there was one released in 2016 for Genealogy of the Holy War, and one in 2019 for Thracia or whatever. In fact, I think all of the Fire Emblem games are either in English or have translation patches. So. Hit them up. And I've never played the GameCube one. Never played Radiant Dawn. I hear it's real easy and real slow because of the animations, but I'll get there someday. Maybe if I get a Steam
Coming
Deck
up next on
Someday.
the Fire Emblem
Steam
podcast.
Deck. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Fire Emblem's dope shit, man. I don't know. I love those games. They click with me for some reason, right? Like Final Fantasy Tactics never clicked with me, but it's amazing.
I hate it.
From what I hear.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't like? Yeah, you didn't like it.
I love strategy RPGs, but I've tried Final Fantasy Tactics a couple of times and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, there's just some that don't work. But Fire Emblem, there's something about it. The like medievalish thing, I dig it. The wyverns, all the like, it's cool. You know, I'm into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, yeah. So that was Fire Emblem. Almost there. 3 more. So I also beat the Ascent, which I don't have a lot to add. Real fun. That's a fun game. That's a solid 7.5 game. You know, like
Music to my ears.
Yeah, and the music also in that game is awesome. Like whenever you get like a boss wave thing, it's like and you're just like dope. Like it's just real good. Oh man, there's a thing you get partway through. It's not really okay. I don't know. Maybe this is a spoiler because it's a weapon upgrade. Yeah, I don't know. Not really.
I'm going to be playing real soon, so
okay,
no,
okay, fine. Let me just say this is all I'll tell you. There's a thing called tactical, like your tac weapon thing, which can be like a grenade, can be like a bunch of different things, like a sentry drone, all that sort of stuff. At first, they're going to seem useless, and you're not going to want to put skill up points into those. Put skill up points into them because at one point you're going to get something that basically breaks shit in the best possible way and is fucking dope. And it just fully transforms you. So anyway, like that game, not that long. I spent like maybe 14 hours or so with the game. I did like half the side quests and then I just stopped. I was like, I don't give a shit because they're not that interesting. But the main story, like the story's not interesting. I'll put it that way. It's kind of dumb. It really doesn't use its main character at all. But the gameplay is great and it is very fun. So highly recommend the Ascent, especially if you have Game Pass. Like, damn, fucking load that shit up. Have a good time. And even if you don't, it's a good time. Speaking of Game Pass, I've also played a few other Game Pass games, and these two are actually really interesting companions in a way, because I played Blair Witch because it's leaving. So by the time you're listening to this, it's probably gone. Or there's like 2 days. No, it's gone for sure. I don't know. Maybe not. It's gone the 31st. Who knows when you're listening? And I also played 12 Minutes. Now, both of these games are like, they're like in that 6 to 7-ish rating-ish area, you know, like they're in that kind of place, but they're wildly different in enjoyment. So Blair Witch, it's not like a remake of the movie or anything. It's a unique story set 2 years after the Blair Witch movie. Now, I also have to say, like, the Blair Witch films, they're okay. Like, as horror movies, they're not actually that amazing. I would actually say that Blair Witch is more important to film history than it is as like a good movie, because it really like revolutionized the concept of like the found footage film. Like there had been films like that before, obviously, but that was the one that kind of like broke through and like hit sort of the mainstream, right? And nowadays,
and to a lesser extent, Cloverfield. Sorry, go on. Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Cloverfield was kind of like in that other sort of like thriller area, but of course Cloverfield came after Blair Witch, right? So it's like
it's like 5 or 6 years after, if not more. Yeah,
and Chronicle as well, right? Like those sort of movies. So they
love Chronicle.
Yeah, it's great, right? But Blair Witch kind of did it for the horror genre. And so if you watch it nowadays, you probably will be a little bored and it won't find it very scary. But this game, I honestly think like they did this thing where they had a concept, right? Where it's, okay, Blair Witch. Blair Witch is all about this witch who controls the woods. When you enter the woods, you are like taken onto the domain of the witch. And it's ingenious because the game is about the witch's control over you, which is exactly what a fucking game does. Like, you follow the instructions of a game, and like it's perfect. There are technically multiple endings, though you're probably going to get one ending on first go because it's basically the ending you get for following the instructions of the game, and I love it. Like, some people might be kind of, I've seen complaints about it where they're like, well, why can't you get the other one? And I was like, well, bro, like, what's the point of this game? Like, the point of this game is that you're being so like, no, you shouldn't be able to just like know, like, what do you want? Do you want the game developers to like give you little dialogue boxes that say you could do this to get this or this? I was like, that's fucking stupid. Like, you don't want that. Come on, don't lie to me. Like, if they did that, everyone would have hated it. Now it's Bloober Team, so Bloober Team is a bit mixed. Like, I don't think you'll like this game, Rick, but I really loved it. And it has a mixture of things, though. It has Alan Wake style combat at one point. It's like flashlights, but no guns or anything. You just have to hold the flashlight, but you have a dog companion who's awesome. You get to customize your dog, and the dog sort of like finds things for you. Depending on how you treat it, it'll affect the ending. And you can kind of call them. You can pet the dog. You can do a bunch of commands with the dog. And the dog will also indicate
beautiful timing.
Yeah,
beautiful timing.
Cat appears as we're talking about this.
Pet the dog. Paula's just stroking a cat.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep. She wants attention now.
Oh, that's adorable. Which also your dog wants, and you can give your dog doggo treats. You don't have to, but you have little snacks, and I loved it. I was like, I'm going to give you all the treats, doggy. So it's kind of like a walking sim, but it does have light puzzle elements. And I'd say it's actually strongest in its first like third of the game, because you're going through the woods in your flashlight and you're like trying to figure out where things are. It's easy to get lost in the woods, but I was never lost for very long. Like I beat this game in like one sitting of like 4 hours or so. And it was excellent. Well, I mean, one sitting and one day, but split up a little bit. And so, yeah, I really loved it. It does get a little bit like near the end of it. They show off a little bit, like, because, you know, Blair Witch has that house in it. And so you can imagine there will be something with an interior, and it's pretty fucking cool. Like they do some cool shit with it, but you're also like, all right, folks, let's wrap it up. You know, like we're going a little long on this set piece here. But yeah, overall for me, it's like a 7 game, but like one of those like real strong ones, right? Because there are little things here and there that you're like, I hear performance is rough as shit on the Switch. It worked great on my Xbox, and it looked awesome. So like I don't know. I think if you're gonna play it, don't do it on the Switch. Maybe, I mean, it might have been fixed, but I heard around the time there was issues.
I didn't even think it was on Switch. That's news to me.
Yeah, it is.
Anything more new than 2 years old that's not a Nintendo IP or an indie, you're probably going to be pushing your luck to try and run on a Switch. Anyway.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. I was like, maybe just don't. I played it with headphones on. Highly recommend that. It's super fucking good with those on. And it's pretty spooky. Like there are some moments where I was like, oh shit, okay, not bad. It's not scary. It's spooky. It's atmospheric. And the story is incredible. So they did this thing which... Oh yeah, let's talk about 12 minutes. So... Because Blair Witch does this thing where it takes a concept and it explores an incredibly interesting human story through its horror elements, right? And it's about PTSD and about like because you're playing as a veteran. It's not a spoiler. The beginning of the game says like this game deals with PTSD and combat violence, so just like be warned. So it deals with cycles of violence, and it uses this horror setting in order to interrogate these themes. And it was one of the most sophisticated looks at it I have ever seen from a game, like, ever. I was like, holy shit, good job. Now, there's some stilted dialogue in the beginning that I was like, oh, okay. But as it went on, I was like, wow, this is like a nuanced take on, like, violence, the cyclical nature of violence, and, like, the realities of trying to get over, like... Anyway, I was like, wow, cool. 12 minutes, on the other hand... This is like one of those low 6s, you know, where like this game, fuck. So I wanted to like this so much. It's such a cool idea, right? Like it's a point and click adventure game in a time loop. So it's very much point and click. And the idea is that everything you need for the game is in this one little apartment. It's also an insane apartment. I was like, they don't have a TV. What the fuck's up with this? But anyway, so I know some people don't have TVs, fine, but you know, in my world that seems insane. And they just have a couch against a wall, and there's just like a kitchen table in front of it. I was like, why do you even have a couch? Anyway, whatever. So also like, okay, because it's Daisy Ridley, James McAvoy, I think, and like Willem Dafoe, right? Willem Dafoe,
yeah,
fucking dope. The other two are good, but like they had them do American accents. So like, look, they're fine when they do the American accents, but like, obviously, if you're getting those 3 people, the reason you're getting them is because of their names and their star power, right? And then you make 2 of them sound like fucking anyone. Like it could have been anybody.
Albeit, credit where it's due, James McAvoy's got an incredible range of accents and stuff like that. Daisy Ridley, I don't know because I've not actually seen her in anything.
They both did phenomenally well. Like they're both great. It's totally fine. It just... the whole time, because you've been told so many times who it is, like the opening of the game shows you who it is, you're like, okay, but why? Right? Like, if I see James McAvoy and he's doing an American accent, cool. But, like, if you're getting them as voice talent, just let them do their fucking voices. Like, this game is so stupid, I would not have questioned two. And it would have been fine. Like, Willem Dafoe could have been not from fucking where they're from. Like, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason they all have to talk the same. Anyway, that's such a minor point. The story is so fucking stupid. Like, it is grade A dumb. Especially where, like, and I won't spoil anything, but I'm just going to say this. I've seen this story in my college screenwriting class done so poorly. Like, it's straight up a college screenwriting course script in the worst way possible. It does zero things with its concept. In fact, by the end of it, you don't even understand how the concept plays into it in any way, shape, or form. There is no thematic unity. Like, yeah, like it trust me, when you finish it, you're like, what was the fucking point?
That's disappointing.
It's extremely disappointing. Like, and I'm going harsh on this because it's just disappointing. Like, it's just one of those things where you're like, this had a lot of potential. This is just sad at this point. So yeah, that's my experience with it. I beat it in like 3 to 4 hours. I saw some people saying it takes 7 to 8. If you spend 7 to 8 hours on this game, you might want to shoot yourself, because like you're gonna have a hard, very sad time with this game. Like,
that's a game reviewer playtime is what that is.
It is, yeah.
Pew, pew, pew.
It was
Yep.
actually IGN, like Ryan McCaffrey was talking about it took 7 to 8 hours, and I was like, bro, what the fuck? You took you 7 to 8 hours on this game? What were you doing? Like, and how frustrated were you? I looked up one hint because I got stuck at one point. Like, maybe that's why, because he couldn't look anything up because he's fucking reviewing it, and he's like, I don't know. But
then also the reviewers all talk to each other about stuff like that, so I feel like it equalizes out.
Yeah, you'd think if he had a problem, he'd have been like, bro, what's going on? Anyway. Don't play 12 minutes. Just don't do it. Because you could just watch something if you wanted, but like,
yikes.
Yeah, it's not fun. And the control's not really that much fun either. I mean, I get it. It's a fucking point and click adventure thing, but it would have been nice if I could just control the guy. Anyway, whatever. That doesn't matter. So anyway, those are all the goddamn games I've played. Why don't one of you take it away? Tell me what you got going.
I'm going to jump in just to continue the disappointment, because I played Metal Slug 4 this past week, and it is worse than the Neo Geo Pocket Metal Slugs. I'm just going to come out and say it. It is the laziest entry in any series I can think of in recent memory. It's basically like the normaler parts of 1 to 3 collaborated together again. And the new bits they add are just so stupid. So like in a couple of the levels, there's a section where you get on the back of a truck and the truck's like moving obviously continually to right, but like within the plane of the screen is moving left to right a little bit, and you have enemies coming down. What it means is you're just functionally committed to like 3 characters' widths worth of space while you're firing all the shots. And then fighter jets come and they fire rockets that you can't really shoot out the sky and you can't really avoid either. And that bleeds into the other problem, which is, and probably the main reason why I liked this so much less than the Neo Geo Pocket games, it's just so unbelievably cheap in the way that it makes player deaths happen, in the situations that it puts you in some of the boss design, in some of the level design, in a lot of the level design, actually, particularly in what was possibly the only new area, which is there's like a snowy tundra level, which visually was nice, but that was also probably where the level design was at its absolute worst. So balanced itself out wonderfully. It really feels like it was thrown together, and given the history of SNK Playmore and when this game came out, it probably was just thrown together. And the cheapness doesn't necessarily matter a lot, in the sense that I'm playing this via the Anthology Collection, so I have infinite lives anyway. But that doesn't make it any less frustrating, because obviously you lose your weapon pickups, you lose your bombs, and it feels like it puts you in no-win situations in the worst traditions of the arcade. Haven't really got a positive thing to say about it, just did not like it at all. And I hope that 5's a smidge better when I get round to it eventually. On the flip side, I finally completed a game called Chicken Wiggle for the 3DS.
That's a great name.
So it's a great name. It's a wonderful little game. So it's from the same guy behind Mutant Mudds, Jules Watson.
Oh.
He also did the Dementium games that I recommended to you for the DS. So it's like a little 2D platformer. It sort of did the Mario Maker thing a couple of years after Mario Maker, so it's very heavily designed around its level editor, which unfortunately seems inaccessible now. I haven't been able to access it at all, but I've got a bit of a history with this game. So I never picked it up when it originally dropped on the 3DS eShop. Then Watchham's current company, Atui, announced a limited run release of the 5 games that they made for 3DS. So the 2 Mutant Mudds titles, a little puzzle game called Bomb Monkey, something else. I think it might have been Zeo Drifter, the little Metroidvania thing they did, and Chicken Wiggle. So I thought, well, I'm not going to get Wiggle. On its own, I'll get the Atui collection and play it. I should note at this point that the Atui collection 3DS cartridge is North American region. So I can only run the cartridge on my hacked 3DS. On the penultimate level of Chicken Wiggle, it crashes my 3DS custom firmware on the chip version. So for about 15 months, this game has been sat in my to be continued tab with 2 levels left to play. So anyway, a few days ago, I decided to just fuck it and download the game on its own, play through it again, and see if it was just the chip that was causing that exception. Turns out it was. The 2 levels that I hadn't played were a rubbish boss battle and like one of the weaker levels. So it's a little bit anticlimactic in that sense. But the game as a whole is utterly charming. Lots of fun. Not especially challenging, but it's just a really nice, breezy platformer with quite a unique grapple mechanic that's justified by the little worm that your little chicken... Not chicken. What's the word for baby chicken? There's a specific word.
Chick.
That's the one. Why was I making that more complicated? So you've got a little chick. He's got a worm in his backpack, and the worm's your grapple hook, and that's like the unique mechanic of the game. And they do a lot with it. The levels are all varied. The levels are very fun. If the editor still worked, I could imagine myself playing loads of community levels. If it sounds like it's your thing, I'd say don't worry about the 3DS release because they are making like a HD version that's going to come to Switch at some point. So keep an eye out for that. It's an easy one to recommend. I can see myself playing it again on Switch if that gives you some idea of the quality. And I was more than happy to play it again a second time to get to the end. So that was nice and pleasant. Nice. And that's me. Paula.
Well, I'm gonna take it away right now. And first of all, I want to cover like the 2 smaller games that I've beaten because before jumping into BUSTAFELLOWS. So the first game I've beaten this week is Among Pipes for Nintendo Switch, and it's pretty much like one of those games where you like rotate pipes and make like a little way for the water to go through. It has a stupid amount of levels, and it actually has like over 300 puzzles. I think 312 or something like that are accessible like from the menu, and there are around 20 more puzzles that are kind of like if you beat everything then you have access to those, but not from the menu, so that was weird. Anyways, it's a little puzzle game. The other puzzle game I played that was kind of disappointing because I was expecting something along the lines of Invento was How Buddy's Parents Met, a jigsaw puzzle game. And it's pretty much I guess the story is like the story, quote unquote, is retold from the point of view from this little gray cat. And it's pretty much like how these 2 people met. Like, and you like solve these little jigsaw puzzles and unlock the pictures. You have like 6 puzzles, and then like each one has like 5 levels of difficulty. But I just did like the base 6 and didn't bother with the rest because it's pretty much the same image. But the fun part of the jigsaw puzzle experience is like uncovering the picture you're trying to assemble, pretty much. So yeah, like unless you like to build or to solve jigsaw puzzles, like, don't bother with this game. And what you should be bothering with is, or you should be caring for, is BUSTAFELLOWS, because holy moly, it's been a while since I've been attacked by the post-video game or post-completion void. Like, it has been a long while since I finished a game and contemplated the roof of my room because I have no idea what else to play for the next few hours.
And from mine and Alex's perspective, it's been a while since the "I don't need sleep, I need answers" GIF has reared its head. So you know it's good when that one finds its way into our little private chat.
Yep. So I think I'm gonna do like a little summary of the game and then go a little bit more in depth. So they may be a couple of spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. So in BUSTAFELLOWS, you take the role of this freelance journalist called Delta Bridges, and she has pretty much stumbled into what seems to be like some interesting piece of information, because the way she does journalism is that she likes to like portray like the voice of the people rather than just her own opinion. So she will ask around like different opinions around the same topic. And she pretty much stumbled upon this, you could call it like a case or something like that, because this one woman who got apprehended, and she's like being prosecuted like at the moment, like pretty much called for her and wanted to do like a little interview about some stuff that was happening. And you see this character like a couple more times during the main story, and you see like these little tidbits of what is happening behind the scenes. And her testimony like really starts getting like more and more like relevant as you progress through the various routes of the game, and especially in the final route of the game. So this is a rather interesting otome game that I have here, because one of the things is it tries to do that not many otome games do, is like having this sense of that you're like watching like a TV police drama show or something like that, because they not only have like the front sprites of the characters, they also have like the back sprites of the characters, and the way they set up the scenes kind of like give it a sense of like you are watching the scene play from behind a person sometimes, and you don't only play the game from the point of Dota, you also get the scenes from the point of the other characters. And it does that in a way that is smart, because all the characters had like unique color associated to them. So they use that color for the text windows. And they actually used that in a couple of times that was like, oh, that is very smart, because they give you like a clue in advance of what really is happening before they show you what actually happened. And that was used in great effect, especially like in Shu's route. Shu is a hitman. He pretty much is a hitman that hunts other hitmen. And by the way, his route was like really action-packed in many ways, and was like very well rounded and well balanced between like story, the overall theme of the game, and the romance with the main character, because okay, otome game. And the game centers around I think the biggest theme of this game is about not only like immigration and illegal or undocumented immigrants, how they call them, but also like how they how they lived or how they are living in this town called New Siege. Not only that, but it also covers like this organization that Irene kind of tips you off about, and how somehow everything is related in one way or another to what is happening like in the underbelly of the city. So I'm gonna try to go a little random of the game, so bear with me. And if for anyone who thinks this game is interesting, I think I mentioned it before, but Delta has like this time travel ability that it isn't a central point of the game, nor it isn't like the only thing her character does, which is very refreshing, but it has also been used very effectively in the overall narrative of the game. So to anyone who is listening and wants to play the game, I very much recommend them to skip ahead if you want to go without any spoilers. But I'm gonna go a little bit like, not spoilery, but spoilerish. So, you have the main 5 routes of the game, and you have, first of all, like 3 things that will tip you off, like where you are gonna end up, that I kind of appreciate, because there are otome games that have like a really long like common route, and then you reach the splitting point, and then you are not where you're supposed to or you want to be. So the first clue is the name of the cat, because there's a cat on the game, and that's awesome. That's a good point on my book. There's also like a little comment that there was also a moment in the story where Toda has to open like an envelope for a thing about the magazine, or like a thing for journalists kind of thing. And pretty much like the character you're already locked on will pretty much like push her to open the envelope. And the third cue of where are you gonna end up is pretty much like a pool scene where everyone is having fun, and there's like a couple of friends that arrange a little thing for Toda over there. But that aside, there's 4 chapters in the common route, and then you have 5 routes that split from there, and each character has a side A that resolves what is pretty much like the more I want to say like the whatever the mystery or like the main point of the plot is. And a side B, which is where most of the fluff is. You still get like a bit of resolution from the side A for some of the routes, but it's mostly fluff. Let's be honest, it's mostly fluff. And well, appreciated fluff, because this game is kind of brutal. So, you have Limbo, the crooked lawyer, who kind of like is a character that sometimes resorts to not really lawful things to solve a case. And his route, like the main antagonist, is pretty much seeking vengeance. And the thing is that Limbo is overall like trying to stop like what is pretty much human trafficking, because there are immigrants that are getting like sold into the country, and stuff happened, and pretty much he caught a friend like buying into one of the immigrants and stopped him, but that pretty much caused said immigrant to die, because the reason why the other guy was trying to buy the immigrant is to save her life. So first of all, you get like these situations where there isn't really like a right answer. Like I'm gonna say the legal route is not always like the more ethical route or the one route that will save the most lives. So the game makes you think about that like a lot. The second route that is just route, he is pretty much trying to find the person who killed his mentor, and in the process he has a list with like the hitman who pretty much and this is like a weird thing about his route because he kills people, but he's killing people who kills people only for the money. Which, okay, but the thing about his route is that first of all, it's action-packed, and second of all, there are moments where like my blood was pretty much freezing out of like a very tense moment in the story, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna die. I didn't die, but still, like the tension of the route and like the overall plot, besides like the thing about his character that didn't, you could say it makes sense or not. I just pulled suspension of disbelief for this route because otherwise I didn't want to like be bitching about the game or about the character motivation or whatever. But I think it was like the most well executed or the most well rounded overall. And it is funny because he and Toad are like polar opposites, but they got to see like eye to eye, and that was like very interesting to see. And then we have like the third route, Helvetica. Holy shit.
Wait, how many routes are there?
There are 5. I'm gonna try to split through the 3 remaining routes, don't worry.
That's all right.
But Helvetica pretty much is he starts as the most superficial character you could ever see in a story, but the bastard has layers, like an onion. But his story has so many layers that it pretty much blew my mind. I don't want to like go into his story too much because that one is something you have to see to believe and to experience the thing. But I didn't expect to like this route as much or like to even like care for this character as much, but it was a very interesting character to see how he got there and how he pretty much goes beyond the story. And Mosu, fourth route, this was a weird character, but Mosu is pretty much considered to be like the one who keeps the order in the route, in the game, in the group. But he is pretty much looking for his sister who disappeared a year ago. And in this route, he and Tota and Luca, who is like a police officer that's a friend of Tota, are investigating this case where there has once again been, they reported it as a suicide, but it happened to be a murder in a school, in a very prestigious school. And then they discover like there has been stuff going on before, and actually like Moso's sister may be related to whatever is going on here, that it seems to be someone is trying to cover up. And in terms of how a police drama would play, like this role was the best on that regard. There was a little tidbit at the end that was like, why would you bring that up? But it was a very, very well-paced route in terms of the mystery that they were trying to tackle. And finally, there was Krell's or Scarecrow's route, and he's like the hacker of the group. Sorry, and probably like the one closest in age to Tota, and they are a couple of gremlins. So outside of the tension that he's brought, outside of the case of his route, or like outside like any like tense moment, these two pretty much like are a couple of gremlins that somehow managed to get in trouble always. But his route pretty much like doubled a little bit on his past, and I feel like the rest is better left unsaid, but I think it was the way this route uses Dota's powers was the smartest way to use the powers I've seen in a while. Like, I won't spoil it, but that moment was chef kiss. And his side B story is like the most hilarious and most fluffy part of the game, so I totally recommend it. And finally, you have the final route of the game that is called Full Circle. Full Circle is an app inside the game where people like pretty much like spread rumors, talk about stuff. It's kind of like Twitter, but with forums and stuff. And well, things really came full circle in this route because you know finally what really is happening behind the scenes and how everything is connected. And then you have like, instead of like a side B with you have Ouendan, that is like the final piece of the game and piece of the puzzle, where Tota pretty much uncovers the mystery she's been like for so long she has been trying to find out what really happened to her brother, and she finally discovered it there. And holy crap, this game isn't like for the faint of heart because there's like a little bit of everything. Like, if you don't like people dying blood or like very I don't want to say like depressing of backstories, but backstories for characters that suddenly get very real or close to home, this game is gonna hurt you. It might stop for it like in the side of its stories, but there were like a couple of times that my eyes like were watering up because some of the backstories for these characters or some specific moments really hit close to home. And the only thing I can say, like to wrap this up, is that Ouendan not only is an excellent name for the last chapter of the game, but also I like how it makes a reference to how every character in this game pretty much is like they're closing this chapter in their life once everything gets wrapped up.
Nice.
That's probably a nice way to close this chapter of the podcast, by which I mean the beaten section. So
my God, can you believe it? I apologize, listeners. We all just went on for an hour about what we've beaten. This is going to be a long one. Buckle in.
No, I am so sorry.
No, it's not your fault. We had like 1,000.
The good news is we've not got a question. The bad news is it's my editing week.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Well, why don't we move on to what we've retired? Because I don't actually have much to say on this one. I'll start. I retired System Shock Enhanced Edition. The remake's coming soon. It's just like Uwe kind of put a good point where like he mentioned how sometimes playing a unique game like this, it's just kind of fun to have played it. And that's very much how I feel. Like, I'm glad I tried it. And like I got through the first level, but by the time I got to the second level, I was like, every level is going to be finding the regeneration pod so that I don't lose, hitting security cameras, finding the nodes. That's going to be every single level. And there's like 9 of them. And I was like, and it's just going to get harder. It's like, I think I'm good. You know what I mean? I was like,
wow.
Yeah.
Tis better to have played and retired than to have never played at all.
Exactly. I am excited to try System Shock 2, though. Just because even for what I've seen, the slight quality of life things they did in that one seem like a little closer. And I am excited to try the remake when it comes out. Because I think if the remake's a little more like what we would call traditional today in terms of the controls, and I think they've pared down a lot of the weapons, I think it's going to be quite fun. Anyway, that was what I did. What about you there, Rick?
Yeah, two quick retirements for me. So the first was Epic Mickey Power of Illusion for the 3DS, which I was compelled to give a try when I was re-downloading Chicken Wiggle. It's not good, Like I'd heard quite good things about this as a fun sort of 2D platformer. It feels like a very by the numbers 2D platformer with a shoehorned in painting thinning mechanic that constantly requires you to pull the stylus out and do a really shitty minigame on the touchscreen where you draw shapes. And it was fun-ish the first time.
Yeah.
And I got through one level and I'd painted like 20 things and rubbed out another 10. And it's just like, there's no way that I continue on with this. There's just zero chance. It's not, even if the gameplay was slightly compelling, it wouldn't have been enough to save it. A much better example, and again, that I always love to plug, is Henry Hatsworth in The Puzzling Adventure, where the bottom screen action is A, more meaningful, B, less frequent, and C, at a time of the player's choosing. Just infinitely better way of doing that concept. The other game I retired was Bullet Girls for the Vita, and this is the most fan servicey game that ever did fan service. Yeah, it's just girls shooting other girls and lots of clothes disappearing. I'd been told that it was actually quite a good game. It's very dull. Once you've played one level, you've played all the levels. There isn't a translation patch. So, like, there's a translation guide, and the gameplay is basic enough that you can sort of follow it through. But I played through, and this is very much sort of what you just said about System Shock. I played through Area 1. There's 6 other areas. I've had a quick skim through the guide. I know that the levels don't change up. It's just me shooting more girls and more clothes disappearing. So I've had my fill. I've heard the sequel's meant to be quite good, so I'll come around to that eventually. But unlike Uppers, the game wasn't compelling enough for me to sort of keep plugging away at it. But it's by no means bad. And if you've got a hacked Vita, it's well worth giving a go. Just don't expect anything super compelling, I'd say. Excuse me. Speaking of things that are compelling, week after week, Paula, you're compelled to play more of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Of course.
What's changed this week?
Pretty much I got a tower, so I unlock another part of a map. I've been doing some side quests, shrine quests, finishing up some shrines that I had. And I got all the correct seeds on Great Plateaus, so that's one area that I think I've done everything to do there. For now.
Until playthrough 4, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how many areas on the game or how many towers they are. I think it was like 13 or something like that, or maybe more. Anyways, moving on. Pokemon Leaf Green, I finally got a Tauros. Finally!
Hey.
So I even got like a Chansey like before a Tauros because I had like such bad luck with catching Tauros. I encountered like 15 Tauros, and number 15 was like the lucky winner. So yeah, I can finally move on from the Safari Zone. I've also been playing Amnesia later. And that one is the first fan is for the Otome game Amnesia Memories. I'm not gonna dive deep right now because time. But so far so good. Then, and the final game I've been playing is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. So Fire Emblem time again. And I've very much gone like through the first couple of tutorials, and I forgot how good the tutorials on this game were. Like, it explains everything, like even like without being like too on the nose. Like, you have this one strong unit, but the game tells you like, hey, you may want to give your weaker units something to do so they can grow up and stuff like that. And I really like that you don't have to use like the master skills to reclass your units in this game. So far so good. But have you two guys been playing? Who wants to go first?
Oh, go on. I'll jump back in. So,
Sure.
I'll touch briefly first on a game that I'm certain I'll have finished in time for next week, which is Root Film. It's really, really good. I'll save all my thoughts for next week once I've hit the end game. But it is great, as I've said for the past couple of weeks, and for all the reasons that I've given over the past couple of weeks. It's a breath of fresh air in a lot of different ways, and I'm really glad that I bit the bullet on that one on release. Nice. Been playing more of Wargroove, been playing more of Vagrant Story. No real change in how I feel about either of those. I've gotten a lot further in the Banner Saga on Android. It's a strange one in that I like the combat a lot. I like the storytelling a bit. The combination of the two, I find myself kind of annoyed every time I have to switch, even though I enjoy both of those constituent elements. And the more I play through, so I'm chunk of the way through chapter 4 of I think 7, so I'm like around about the halfway point. Having actually played some of it myself, I totally get where you two came from, where you said you didn't really feel much of a compulsion to play more of the games because the story is interesting, but it's not especially gripping. It feels weirdly cookie cutter. And I think part of that's just because of how many protagonists it asks you to follow. They've all got unusual names for a Western reader. You never feel like there's a true protagonist. And I know there are 3, but I haven't ever felt a super strong affinity to Rook or Hakor or Ludin or whoever the other one is. And I think if it was a pure VN or a pure strategy RPG, without changing any of the elements of either of those parts, I think it would be a bit more enjoyable. And that, it's still good. I've rated it a 7. I think it's probably just more of the Metroidvania problem where there's just so many incredible strategy RPGs. Just being good isn't quite good enough, unfortunately. Yeah. And some of that will also be just coming to 8 years late. Like, obviously, it rode that Kickstarter wave, and there was a lot of hype and excitement around it for that reason. It probably isn't being done a disservice by being sort of shorn of that.
Well, I remember playing it when it came out, and it really was like kind of interesting and unique because I think there had even been Fire Emblem lull at that time too, and it was like, or either you just weren't playing that, so like if you weren't on a Nintendo system or something, it was like, well, what the shit were you gonna play, right? Like there was nothing.
Yeah.
At the time, I mean, obviously there were things, but like you know what I mean. Like it's like if you're on PlayStation or something, like that was what you got. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It probably doesn't hold out quite as well now.
No, it's very much sort of fine TM. It's one of those. I've played a bit more of Kine, the musical jazz puzzler, and I've got it working on Moonlight again, which is a great help because it's a nice one to just sort of play curled up in bed for a bit before you sort of drift off. It's just really pleasant. I don't know that I touched too much on the mechanics properly when I spoke about it last week. So it's like a grid-based get item A from start point to end point kind of game, bit like Steven's Sausage Roll, that kind of game. If you know what that game is, you probably like this genre. Even if you don't like the aesthetic and the visuals and the charm that it has about it, I think do elevate it a little bit as someone who's not normally into that kind of game. Also helps that when I got it with one of those very generous Epic will give you £10 towards any game, and the dev will get the full amount vouchers. So that was a nice bonus as well. But it's good. I do think I'll stick with it at least for a little bit longer. Maybe even finish it. It is very, very enjoyable. And then finally, I have started a replay of Valhalla or VA11 Hall A for the Vita. This is like one of the most acclaimed indies. It's like 99% overwhelmingly positive on Steam. And it's a real charm. And my original playthrough was back in 2018. I got the worst ending because, as with real life, I did a terrible job of managing my money. And I'd always meant to come back to it and do a playthrough and get like the proper endings, because the bad ending sort of shears you off a little bit before the proper end of the game. But when you do a New Game Plus, you keep all the stuff you bought, and I think all your money that was in the coffer from the previous time. But you start off with all your shit anyway. So I'm in a good position to have enough money to sort of get the proper endings this time. and I'm looking forward to playing it again and doing that. None of its charm's been lost in the near 3 years since I played it last. And the soundtrack still slaps by Garrad, and that's all available on YouTube and Bandcamp. Even if you don't want to play the game, if you like sort of vaporwave, retro-y synth pop music, it's some of the best going. So that's me, Alex. What have you been playing? I'm really curious to hear about Tomato Adventure first.
Yeah, this game's awesome. So this is the Alpha Dreams second game, I think, because their first one was an untranslated, like Pokemon-esque battler thing that apparently was quite good. But this one, Tomato Adventure, had been untranslated for years, and I think just this year got a fully like playable translation. And I have to say, this translation is really good. Like the writing is excellent, and like I mean, obviously, like part of that is Alpha Dream's original writing is very funny and good as well, but like they've really done a good job translating it. And it also feels, sometimes these translations, for better or worse, sometimes they can be a little stiff. And then other times, this is one of those examples where it's like, you can tell they are freed from the shackles of like Nintendo and like the capitalist, like, oh, can we put this in sensation kind of thing. Not that it's like
the Mother 3 situation.
Yeah, it's not like it's an edgy game or anything, but it's like there is one character who's a pothead who loves pots and wants one for his head. Like, and it's just very funny. Like, I was like,
that's so dumb.
It's pretty good, right? And like the whole thing is like, yeah, it's really dumb, but like I love it. And he's like, I want a good pot, man. Like you're just, and he's green, so like you know what I mean? Like. You're right. And I was like, this is pretty good. And the whole game, it's an RPG. But like it in some ways, it also makes me really sad that they had to go on and make the Mario and Luigi games because it's really neat. And like their games, like these people have a great imagination and like clearly, and it's so sad they're defunct now too. I'm like, they were making good shit. Like this game it's not hard by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like, I mean, that's just how it is. They've never really been that difficult, though I'm sure there's probably a random spike at some point because like a lot of their games have that where suddenly it's tough. But the way it works is you're in this kingdom. It's like sort of confusing. It's like a kingdom ruled by children. And there's like all of these like anthropomorphic like food and stuff. And you're like these little weird creatures, and like tomatoes are like the greatest thing in this world. But the ones who don't like tomatoes are called like the droppers or something like that. I can't remember the exact name. And so like you're one of those people and they're like, we hate you, like you people like don't like tomatoes. It's so weird. But like they're the one day of the year they're allowed to like leave this enclosure they're like entrapped in. And so like you go out with this little girl to like go to this like toy ruin. It seems like it's like a weird like post-apocalyptic world where there's only children and there's like living toys and shit. It's crazy. Look, it's insane and it's so wonderful and it's so beautiful. Like it is gorgeous looking. It is just beautiful like pixel art, and like backgrounds are so colorful. Like it's everything you expect from the Mario and Luigi games, just without those two. And that also means that the characters themselves I find have really great personality, because like your main character, whose like main name is DeMille, is like, you know, like has text and everything. He's not like a silent protagonist. He's like very much a person. And there's this like dude called like Celestro, I think, who's like your tutorial guy. But like this is the best tutorials I've seen, because he just like stalks you and like appears when you need something from like really insane things. Like at one point he teaches you that you can get like fruits and nuts out of these like things, and you go to one of them and you're like, the hell, like it won't open, and then he just like explodes out of it. Your character's like, oh my god, like, he's just always freaking out because he seems to be able to just like appear at any time and be like, I have things to tell you, and like show you how to do stuff. And like it's just, and you can say no to him, like you can just tell him to fuck off all you want, but like they just find all these creative ways of having him come out, and like your player character is genuinely terrified of this guy because he's like, how did you do that? And it's just cute. Like it's just really cute. And it's very much an adventure game as well, right? You're going to all these places. It's the MacGuffin of you got to get the 6 things to get the thing. But like it sends you on that adventure to do it. It's a turn-based combat, but like classic, like, you know, the Mario games. There's like, you know, hit the A button at the right time to get like a special power up. Mash the A to like get a thing, or like select a card to get the right one. You have these things called gimmicks, and gimmicks are like little machinery. And what's really neat about them is they have a limited amount of uses, before they reset. And reset just means like you get your uses back. But the thing is, you have like 3 gimmicks at one time, and maybe you can get more later. And they all have different uses. But if one of them gets to 0 and you still have other uses, you have to use those ones. So there's kind of this game of like managing your gimmicks and like which one am I going to use and at what time. And yeah, it's really fun. I really like it. It's like really chill. Again, not that hard, but like it's just fun to, stumble upon a really unique game from a team who's like makes good shit. And I gotta say, as like their second game, what a confident fucking game. Like they've just been good from the get-go, like I don't know, which is also why, again, like I say, it's sort of sad that they're just gone now, because like they've just been a competent studio from the beginning. They don't really have like many bad marks on them, except maybe like, I don't know, Paper Jam or something. But again, that seems to me like less their fault and more like, hey, we want you to make a Mario and Luigi game with this Paper Mario stuff, and they're like, yeah, but what? I almost feel like Nintendo sunk them in some ways, but anyway. So yeah, that's Tomato Adventure. Recommend checking it out now that it's got the free translation. Well, I mean, it has the translation, and that's probably the only way you're going to do it. So just emulate it and have fun. Alpha Dream's defunct
for
anyway.
real, like if they weren't going to sell it to you, fuck them.
Yeah, I mean, plus the studio is literally defunct. So I mean,
20 years later, especially. So yeah,
yeah. In 2019, they closed doors. So because they went bankrupt. Oh no. Anyway, on a happier note, Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective. Oh man, this game's fucking dope. I love this game. Oh, it's like that. You know that game we played a while back, I think on Itch, like that one where it's the room with all the cats and like the ladies dying.
Yes, I did get mad Ghost Trick vibes from that one. Yeah.
That's like, I was like, oh, that's what Ghost Trick is.
That's literally Ghost Trick.
Yeah, it's just Ghost Trick is more involved. Oh, sorry, Paula, were you going to mention something?
Oh, no, don't worry. I'm getting to that game though, especially since you mentioned that it's like the 6 Cats Under, I think it was.
Yeah, Six
That's
Cats
the one,
Under.
yeah.
Yes, that's it. It's like that. You'll love it. Oh, and the art style is so gorgeous. Like they've got this stylized, like almost like Johnny Bravo, sort of, like weirdly enough. Like it's got that like colorful
pop arty, cell shaded sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And like almost like think like Fairly Odd Parents and like Danny. All those like Nickelodeon-ish animated shows from maybe there's more,
but without the chunky outlines.
Yes, but without the chunky outlines. Yeah, there's still slight outlines, but not as chunky. But like that kind of art-ish style, it's really gorgeous.
And there's so much character in the characters.
Yes,
like the detective who's like an Elvis guy, and he moonwalks in and out of every scene, and he's doing like a Jeffrey Goldblum dance sort of situation whenever he's involved. Oh.
It's wonderful. What a game. You like talk to a Pomeranian at one point who's just like
Rocket. Yes.
Yeah. And he's just said, I love it. He's like, I must help my owner. That owner. It's so good. He's like, I will carve my own path, and like starts banging his head against a wall. Anyway, it's full of character. It makes me extremely sad that this game was not a massive hit and was marketed poorly, because how I wish Shu Takumi could have made more of these, because they're incredible. Yeah. But then again, maybe it's also great. It's like, you know what? Lightning struck once, you make this awesome enclosed game, and like you go along. But anyway, loving it. I'm probably going to have it beat by next week, because I'm really going through it now. I'm like almost halfway through, I think.
And a little bit of context to the listeners at home. So Paula and I are both planning to jump into it very soon. I think for both of us, it'll be a replay, right?
No, this will be like my first time playing it.
Oh, you're in for a treat then. I stitched you up while you were drinking a glass of water, but yes, you are in for a treat. Although I am slightly angry with Alex, because if he'd waited a month, we could have done Ghost Trick or Treat for October.
Sorry, I couldn't wait. I just needed to play it. It's actually biting into my
missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. It's biting into my great Ace Attorney Chronicles playthrough, because it's kind of like a novelish game, and so I'm playing the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Loving. I beat the first trial, the kind of like tutorial-ish trial. Great. It's more Ace Attorney. Love it. I like the new setting. The music's great. I love the the like pan fluty sort of stringed instrument, like This Is Old Japan music, but it's Ace Attorney, and you're like, nice.
One of the things that was said like during a developer interview is that first of all, the music is orchestrated, and second of all, the each character has like one instrument that represents them and is like more present on their theme.
That's awesome. I love
I don't know, just thought it was cool.
No, that's great. And I have to say, this game, wow, it is Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Like, they took what they learned from that game. Like, it's wild. I was like, wow, that game seriously affected. Like, I think he was like, yeah, let's do this. Because again, there's the multiple witnesses and whatnot. I haven't gotten to the multiple jurors yet, though. I'm excited to try that. So anyway, playing that. I also started up Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. Tiamat and God, I can't remember who else. Was it Roy? Someone on the Discord have been talking about playing this game a little bit. Or was it Ash Gazer? I don't know. Someone. It was someone else. I think
it was Ash Gazer.
It was Ash Gazer. Yeah, okay.
Tiamat have played it quite recently as well.
Yeah, and so when I went home over the holidays, like my holiday, I found my copy of Enslaved Odyssey to the West, and I was like, oh shit, it's backwards compatible. I should try it out. Wow, it looks good. Like, kind of. Now it is a bit green and a bit bright, like at times, you know, like games of the era sometimes were. They'd have like that weird, like kind of fuzziness, but like it looks good and it's holding up really nice. You know, based on based on Journey to the West, but like a little bit different, obviously. But I just studied Journey to the West this year, actually, in one of my classes. So I was like, oh, cool. I recognize like this. I mean, it's obviously very different, like post-apocalypse stuff. It's probably going to go on the I'll play you later list for a little while because Psychonauts 2 just came out. So like, you might not hear about this game for another week or two. But yeah, cool game.
Which one has more Andy Serkis though? You've got to weigh up the importance.
Is Andy Serkis in Enslaved? Who is?
Mm-hmm.
Is he Monkey?
Gollum. It's Gollum. It's Monkey. Yeah,
he's Monkey. Oh shit!
Any humanoid CGI character, Andy Serkis probably did the mocap for.
Yeah, fair. Fair. He's not the voice of him, though, is he?
Gollum and Smeagol. Yeah, he's the voice.
No, I know that. I was talking about Enslaved. I was like,
might be. I feel like it might be Nolan North or Troy Baker or one of the other cookie cutter
VAs. That's really neat. I didn't know that.
There you go. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, that's cool. Anywho, that makes a lot of sense actually. Now that I even look at the character, there is some real Andy Serkis in that face. Yeah, that is for sure. So that's it. Yeah, that's what I've been playing. Let's move on then to our topic, which
what people are going to be replaying.
Yeah. We're talking remasters. So we've heard that GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, right? Yeah, they're getting a good old remaster coming out soon. And, you know, Skyrim's being re-released again onto next-gen consoles with a bunch of mods and whatnot. So we just thought, why don't we talk a little bit about it? Why don't we talk about it? One thing I will say is I'm interested about the GTA ones because there's no way in hell all the music's going to be in those games. Like, it's not happening, right? Like,
probably not. Not.
I think when they released them, was it mobile or PC or something? A shit ton of the music wasn't in the game. Like all those licenses, and that's like such a big part of those games. But anyway,
the music licenses can be one of the biggest things that screw over re-releases of one stripe or another. For sure. I think the more pertinent comparator, though, particularly with Skyrim being the other conversation point, is GTA 5. So the question of full price re-release versus like free next gen upgrade, which is the path that GTA has gone down. And obviously Sony have paid them a crap ton of money to make it free for anyone who already owns a PS4 full stop, I think, for the first year or something silly like that. There's some kind of deal with bringing it forward on that side of things. Versus Skyrim, which they want you to pay £60 for, again, because there's fishing this time. Yeah.
Not quite. It's not quite
and
accurate.
They're both PS3 games that are on like the third.
Yeah, it's not quite accurate, though. You can upgrade. You just can't upgrade to their special edition. So, like, you can upgrade to the next gen version if you have a previous gen version for free. But if you want their like extra bells and whistles one, then yeah, you gotta pay.
I'm being flippant. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I have. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Go on. No, go ahead.
I have a slightly maybe like a hot take on these sort of things too, though, but, which has been made me accused of being Todd Howard in disguise, but I'm not. But like, I like that Bethesda put Skyrim on everything. Like, it's just one of these things where I'm like, it's nice that it's there if you want it, and the game still sells like gangbusters. Like, there's still millions of fucking people playing it, and so like, at the end of the day, I'm like, porting a game to a new console, it doesn't not cost money. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a thing where you just go like, boom, boom, done. And the fact that, see, what I would be upset with is if they delisted old games, right? Like, if they were doing a thing where it's like delist and, oh, you got to go buy the new one, then I'd be like, oh, hold on a second. But like, you can still buy it on all these older systems, and it's on Game Pass and everything. And it's just, I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like, if you want to play Skyrim, there's a way for you to play Skyrim. And it'll be optimized on the thing you're playing it on, right? So it's like, it's not even just like, oh, you know, you can just backwards compatibility it. You can do that if you want. I mean, you could do that on the Xbox if you want. Or you can also get the newer one that they've maybe put a little more love and attention into and has some extra stuff in it if you want, right? Like, and if you love it.
I hear you. To an extent, I agree with you. I think that argument is much stronger if it's a £15 release versus a full £60 release. Because yes, the next gen work doesn't happen magically for free. I accept that. But also, you know, you don't need the same kind of people to prettify a game that's already existing as you do to make the fucker. It isn't the same kind of money. You're not doing the same marketing because it's been on the market for a decade. It's done it itself. And the sad thing is, you're right. They do sell gangbusters, and they will sell gangbusters.
Yeah, I mean, they sell millions
I have
of copies
friends in my
still.
real life who are like, yeah, like, it sucks, but I'm going to buy it again.
Yeah.
Fuck's it, you're the problem.
I know. Yeah. And I mean, I do agree with you on that point as well. Like, I totally. I just get resigned to the fact that it's sort of like the Nintendo thing. It's like, I feel like Bethesda goes, yeah, I mean, we could do that, but like, they'll buy it at 60. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think the problem is like, and again, this can get into like, you know, this stickier shit of like, the capitalism of it all. But like, there's that issue of, yeah, you know, it all comes back to capitalism. But there's also that issue of like, I'm sure they're looking at it and they're going like, okay, so we could put it at 15, and the people who would buy it at 60 would still buy it at 15. And the people who wouldn't buy it at 60, they're probably not even going to fucking buy it at 15. You know what I mean? Like, and so they're probably just like, you know what? Put it at 60. Those fuckers who would have bought it at 15, they won't buy it, but who cares? Like, we've like more than doubled. You know what I mean? Like, and not that they were making that calculation in their brains, but I don't know. Not that that's a good thing or not, but you know.
I feel like smart delivery is sort of the answer. Like, as someone who's never owned an Xbox thing, that's a lie. I actually am borrowing a 360 and I have a copy of Lost Odyssey downstairs. Who's never purchased an Xbox console and until 3 weeks ago has never had one in their possession. Smart delivery is the way forward, because then you want Skyrim? There is one listing of Skyrim. You know, maybe two if they release a Game of the Year edition or whatever.
I was about to say though, bud, you know what world we live in, right? There's like 6 versions of every game.
Yeah, but
which is bullshit.
Broad brush, that's the version that exists.
Yeah.
You pay the same price, and hopefully they discount it deeper because it's the same thing that's been around for longer.
Yeah.
And whichever console you have, it downloads the best version for you.
Yeah.
Which is already sort of what you have on PC anyway. It's just in terms of the console space.
That's kind of what you have on Xbox now too. Like, when I put my Enslaved game in, it downloaded it. Like, it downloaded the version that works best on the, because it's not just strict backwards compatibility. It's like there's a bit of work that makes sure that it works in there. So it's like the 5 gigs downloaded and like it works real nice. So yeah. I don't know. That's I just sort of feel kind of like I'm like, let them get theirs, I guess. You know, they fucking nailed it.
I'm just trying to remember how many ports or re-releases of Skyrim there are actually.
Yes.
Because yes
is the answer. How many ports
yes is
are
the
there?
answer.
Yes.
But yeah, like, one of the things that I was thinking is that games like GTA, games like Skyrim, do they really need a re-release because of backwards compatibility? If you had the PlayStation version, you can play it on PS5. I mean, okay, they need be re-released because it makes the company money. But there are other games that I feel would benefit from the re-release or remaster. Read anything a lot more.
I think
that's always the conundrum, isn't it? Because the games that would benefit the most would do so because they sold poorly the first time and were flawed in some way. That makes it harder to make the you're gonna love this, Alex, capitalistic case to do it.
But for example, the video games that are being ported to Switch, like I can see why the Wii U sold like shit and the Switch isn't backwards compatible. So okay, you put it in a cartridge and okay, it makes more sense. But Skyrim, you can play it like on a toaster.
Yep.
But I mean, to be fair, there's not actually that many ports of Skyrim out there. Like, it's like you've got the PS3, the Xbox 360 generation. Then you have PS4 and Xbox One. You have PC and Nintendo Switch. It's not that many. And there's the Amazon, that funny one that they did, which was like basically the joke, right? Like, so and you got that one, right? And then they made a VR game. So it's like, ultimately,
there's the VR re-releases. There's also Blades, which got a mobile and a Switch release. It's a separate game, but it uses all the same assets.
Yeah, but again, it's not Skyrim, right? Like that's a stupid game. It was a big mistake. The VR one's interesting. I played part of the VR. I played the VR one for a while. Actually, it was pretty cool. But Skyrim's that game where I played it once and I loved it, and then I always see it again and I want to go play it, and then I start playing it and I go, right, this is a game from fucking like 2011. It's like, oh my god, I don't want to play this game anymore. But talking about other remasters that like you're talking about, to me, what's interesting about remasters versus this re-release thing is that like you see Skyrim is already so good foundationally that they just re-release it with slight upgrades, right? Like, it's a little prettier now because we got better shit. Oh, we put mods in it that were made because it's nice, you know? The special editions, like, here's all the DLC and shit. But, like, we didn't really have to redo much because it's a good game. Whereas you have the GTA games, and what I think is interesting about these games is they're being recreated, like, they're being remade in Unreal Engine instead of their older engine. So I'm really curious to see if, like, what this means. Like, is this really going to be like a substantial, because they're calling it a remaster, right? And like, I don't know, I'm almost more disappointed by remasters than I am by re-releases, because a re-release, at least I'm just kind of like, I know what I'm getting. But then a remaster like implies that you're putting more work into it, and I'm like,
it's a gray area for sure. Yeah,
right. And they're usually just kind of like fine, and you're like, what was the point? You know, like, why not just remake this, right? Instead of putting like a shiny coat of paint on it and being like, ta-da.
Yeah, or why did you even bother with the do-over? I think because we were talking about this in the private chat, there's a Strange Journey's an interesting example of that, where when they remastered it for 3DS, like, yeah, they've added a few demons. Yeah, they've prettified some of the models a little bit. And they've added an extra section. But the extra section arguably detracts more than it adds. And for that little effort that they've done and put in, it's almost like, why did you bother?
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with the remasters, where a re-release, you know, if nothing else, it's just accessibility for future consoles and generations and everything else. With a remaster, it's not always a purely positive set of changes.
Yeah.
And you haven't necessarily got the pros that you get with a full remake that soften that blow if there are things that are changed or removed.
Yeah. And
so it's a weird one.
And I suppose a re-release is also just a port, right? Like, I mean, really, we could just use the same words. It's just a port to another system.
Yeah.
But I suppose there is a difference, too, because I guess this is getting into the weeds of like the way we call these things, but I suppose in my head I always think of a port as being like, this game has only come out on this one and now it's coming out on this other console of this era, whereas re-release is always,
you think of it as intra-gen.
Yeah, right. You think of it, it's like, oh, they're re-releasing this on a new generation versus, oh, they're just putting this on another thing, right? Like Hades, for instance, I wouldn't call it a re-release when it came on the Xbox and on like the PlayStation. It's just like, oh, they ported it there. But at the same time, it kind of is, but like, because like they had a whole big to-do about it, and it probably made a lot of money again. So
yeah, well, you'd hope so. The amount that they've clearly spent on ads. I haven't been able to move on the internet for Hades adverts for PS4 and 5.
And
which
Game Pass too.
Well, there you go. Wasted effort because I played it on PC and I'm not playing it again.
Oh yeah, I played it on my Switch and I'm good. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting because I'm also getting to the point now where like as I'm playing with backwards compatibility, like having the Xbox has really shifted my brain a little bit too, because like PlayStation, as we all know, is garbage for backwards compatibility. And for a time I thought no big deal. But like playing on the Xbox, like going back to games like Enslaved, and like I kind of want to play through Jade Empire at some point here, and like I played through Knights of the Old Republic 2 recently, and like being able to pop in these older games, and like a lot of them still fundamentally function well, and they actually end up functioning better on the newer hardware, to the point where it's like, should we re-release these games or should we just let people play them in the old way? You know what I mean? So it's, you know, like I'm starting to think like maybe backwards compatibility solves the re-release problem, but of course it makes them less money because you can't charge $60 for Jade Empire. It's $10.
Yeah, well, Nintendo know that all too well, charging for the 5th time in a row for Mario Bros. Again.
Oh,
Again.
Yeah. What was I going to say then?
Yeah, because the Mario Brothers, the 3D ones that came out, those are remasters.
No, they are whole fresh games in their own right. I was more referring to like
no, sorry, I was
Nintendo's...
talking about the 64 Sunshine and Galaxy.
So that collection, which is now unavailable to purchase legally, although there are better versions floating around on the 7 Seas. They nominally had made minor changes, but I think the games were still 16:9, at least 64 and Sunshine, and modders for a long time very easily and very quickly had adjusted those two games to be native 4x3, and it's for Nintendo, you know, a big company. That's the bare minimum that should be expected.
Do you mean native 16:9, like they're 4x3?
Whichever one's the better.
Yeah,
one.
So, 4x3 is the small like CRT style square box, and 16:9 is the widescreen. Right. Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. It was. Now
don't you apologize? That's me using the wrong terminology, but yes.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean, Sony used to be quite good with backwards compatibility, and then Jim, who the fuck would want to play a PS1 game, Ryan, came along. And it stopped being the case. Like my playthrough of Vagrant Story, like that's a version I bought on PSN that I'm playing on my Vita. Just works. It's wonderful. And on the hacked one, you can do a lot of compatibility stuff, and you can get just about any PS1 game running on it. Beautiful. And that's with the native emulator that's built into that console. The only saving grace is just as those consoles become more and more like standardized off the shelf, effectively PC hardware. The case for bringing them forward or not becomes harder and harder to make from the negative side of things. It's just hard to justify not having backwards compatibility or not just being able to pop the disc in and it just works, because you haven't really got to do a compatibility layer. It's just a computer.
Yeah.
And it's all you know, there's no PS3, whatever the hell they did with the internals in that.
That
you haven't got some
thing, yeah.
Cell architecture, that's the one. Yeah, you haven't got some arcane proprietary setup that is cool if you put the effort in and do it just right, and in some instances even outperforms current hardware, but is also a bitch to work with initially, let alone port.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, I also think there's a case to be made, like, some games you go back to, genuinely, you're just like, ooh, don't control so good no more. And, like, I think the early GTA games, for sure, you go back to them and you're a little bit like, yeah, this was made at a different time. So, like, for me, that's an example of why I'm like, yeah, I can see a remaster being made of these for sure. But then you have things like Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, which
why
are worse than the SNES games. So I'm like,
I mean, that is stretching the term remaster.
I know. Okay, seriously, like Uwe posted this
more
too.
like a remaster.
Yeah, because seriously, okay, and I know that when pixel art, you duplicate the art at times, like some tiles duplicate, but like they used grass tiles on the trees, and the trees look like grass. It really hurts my brain, and like the text font was bad.
Nah, the developers like Square solved the making tile sets blend well problem decades ago.
Yeah.
There is no excuse for a existing game being prettified to have that kind of problem when your one job is making them look pretty again.
That's literally what
Because
it's called.
they're not
Pixel
even,
remaster.
they're not even bringing forward some of the bonus content from some of the prior, what could actually be called remasters. You know, like 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls on the GBA,
like
the extra content from the Final Fantasy 4 the PSP version, or even the extra content from, and I understand this is because they went pixel versions, like the 3D versions of 3 and 4.
Yeah.
No, it's just fucking unforgivable. Of course it is. It's an actual joke.
And I heard too, like, I mean, there was rumors too a while back that they were remaking The Last of Us, and I was like, that is
again, yeah,
the biggest.
Yes, like why?
That game is great. Like, I replayed it recently. There's a PS4 version, you know, like I replayed it and it's really good.
Basically, Skyrim though came out on the PS3, remastered for PS4, remastering again for PS5.
But I heard that they're remaking. This is the thing. Like the rumors, at least, are that they're remake. If they remaster it, then whatever. My thought is there's a TV show coming, and they're probably like, watch the HBO show and play the brand new glorious remake with Pedro Pascal's face. Like, I mean, I doubt it, but could you imagine, like, honest to God, like,
no, I can imagine. That's why I'm so frustrated.
I wouldn't put it past them because, like, remember what they fucking did with Spider-Man? They fucking Insomniac. They changed Spider-Man's face and it's so fucking dumb looking. Yeah. He's supposed to be older. I played it without the fucked face and it looked great. And then they did it and they're like, it's not to make him look more like Tom Holland. And I was like, go fuck yourself. I was like, bull fucking shit. That wasn't a part of the thought. I am certain a Sony exec was like, hey, can we make him look more like Tom? And I'm like, no doubt at all. Anyway, yeah.
I was thinking like, there are like visual novels and toy games that get like remakes or remaster with either like redefine the art or leaving the art as is, depending like where like when and where are you making like the port of it. But one a couple of examples that really caught my eye is, first of all, the Tsukihime remaster, because I played that game like as a fan translation, and you have to go through the 7 seas to actually get that one. And they are making like a Switch and PS4 remake, and they are changing like some of the character designs. And from what I've gathered is that they are not remastering like the full game, but the near side of the moon routes of the game. So you don't have like the full experience. And from what a friend of mine, the one who recommended me Tsukihime, said, the far side of the moon is like more thrilling. And it's like the better part of the game, I want to say.
Which is why you'd be infused to buy that when they make it as its own separate thing.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah. It's, I guess it's a little bit like Hakuoki, but like with Hakuoki, they added 6 more routes. So they split the game into not like 6 routes and 6 routes, like the first half and the second half. And we, for Westerners, got that treatment, while Japan got like the full version later on for the Vita.
Ugh.
That sucks. Anyways, like the thing with the Tsukihime remake, not only besides the why would you split the game, the interesting part is this opens up the door for an actual localization of the game.
Oh, so if you remake, then you can localize because you're already doing the project, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah, because like that already happened with a lot of Otome games that made the jump to the Switch, and then they are getting like the localization. That happened with BioFury, and not only that, BioFury actually got a sequel. So, in the other hand, like you have Amnesia and the Hakuoki games that, to be fair, it seems like Japanese players are getting sick of them, but they are like getting all these fan discs on Switch. So that might be like a clue of a localization coming, because they can now localize the thing like for an actual like console that has a wider audience here in the West.
Well,
So
I was just going to say, too, that's sort of the case of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, right? Like, I mean, the reason basically they're making a Switch collection is for the West, right? Because it's not selling well in Japan, because why would it? They had all the games. There's not that much different. But in the West, it's selling great. Like, they're like, nice. It's like, might as well, if you're going to remaster something in Japan at least, and it was never localized, you might as well do it now. Open it up.
Yeah, especially like on the Switch, because everything, even the niche stuff, is selling way better than
For sure.
back in the Vita game.
Well, there's just so many more people who own one. So it's like, sorry, Vita, but like there's just so many more, people who have a Switch. So it's just going to sell better. Anyway, that was, I don't know.
To be fair, like the Vita made room for the Switch to be successful because many of the IPs the Switch is getting came from the Vita first. So
the Switch stands on the Vita's shoulders, and doesn't anyone ever forget it.
Well, let's head on then, because we've been going for a while. That was our little chat about remasters. I don't know, maybe we'll talk again at some point. That was just a free flowing chat on it. But let's get down to how long to beat the game. Rick, tell us, what are we playing for this week?
Right, okay. So if you want to re-roll this, I will leave it up to you two. WWE 2K14.
2K14. Okay, can we just see what another one would be, and then let's choose the one between them? Because 2K14, that's a weird one. I don't know, man.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Although it's not clear which version that is. The alternative is Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc.
Let's do WWE.
Rayman 3.
Why don't we do
Let's
it?
do WWE.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do it. Because Rayman 3 is a kind of platformer. We've done so many platformers. We've never done a sports game before.
I'm kind of scared by what the completion time on this is going to be.
I'm not even going to try. WWE 2K14. Oh my god. Yeah.
If it helps, it's got Dwayne The Rock Johnson on the front of it.
Nice. Dwayne The Rock Johnson on the front of that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Was this one of the ones that was seen as good?
You're asking the wrong people.
Wait, sorry. Brain went away. Which game are we?
I know it's misleading, but Paula isn't a big wrestling fan, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. We're doing WWE 2K14. Oh, okay. Yeah.
WWE Pokey 14.
Oh no.
Oh, that's fantastic. Right, you have to play the game now, Paula. It's them's the rules.
Please, no. I refuse. Objection.
Right. I'm gonna go 10 hours main.
Yeah.
42 hours main plus.
Holy shit!
And
okay.
For I think it's a big one. I've lowballed for the past 2 weeks, and Uwe's rightly ripped me in the Discord for it. So I'm gonna highball this time. I'm gonna say, just for the record, I think the 100% would be like 200 plus, but I'm not gonna put a time down for it.
Yeah, I think you're probably on in that regard.
I'm trying to I'm reading the Wikipedia page, and it says it has the campaign is 30 years of WrestleMania, so I guess that's for the main.
I would assume so.
Including 45 matches. Oh, beautiful. So then you have the strike mode.
If you say so.
And you have to you add strike mode. You have to get a winning streak of 21 matches or something like that.
Oh, I think this is in the high end of games, but I think you're on the right. I think you're on the right track, Rick, with this kind of in the 10s and the 40s. But I feel like this is okay because the 2K games. Because I'm going to pull on basketball, which I know is not wrestling, but I've played the basketball ones, and they always have a glut of modes. I always feel like there's just a fuck zillion modes in them. So I'm going to go 18 hours main.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to do 37. 37 and a half. I know you hate it. And I'm not even going to try 100 because I think... So I don't think it's quite in the 200s. Like I think it's probably in the like 60s to 70s. I just
that is a low
where.
ball. 100% for a sports game. That's a low ball.
Okay,
the amount
80s.
of hours I've lost to FIFA Manager modes, that is absolutely a low ball.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking like full on 100%. I'm not thinking like how many times. I'm not thinking multiplayer times. I think that's crazy. But I'm thinking like,
oh no, neither am I. No.
Yeah.
Oh wait, does this include the DLC? Because I just read it has 3 DLC packs.
Oh my god,
I don't know. Usually that's separate, isn't it? Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
My time's locked in. I'm gonna have a look. It doesn't appear to include any DLC power.
Okie dokie. Okay, I think like the main campaign may be a little bit shorter. Though there are, how long does a match take for this game?
I'm gonna go 11 hours.
Thing.
I think 18 is too high. I think I'm going way too high.
I'm gonna go 11 hours, but with a half there.
Of course you are.
But I don't know what the main plus and 100% times are. Like, how do you even guess here?
Alex,
Okay.
you fully Price is Righted me there.
I am Price is Writing you. I'm doing 11 hours and 40 hours and 30 minutes. I don't know. I feel like you just talked me down because like you've got experience with these sports games, so I'm convinced you know what you're talking about.
Watch it be what you said, and now I've stitched you up.
I swear to Christ, if I was right, I'll be so upset.
Oh,
okay, Paula.
I'm gonna go 11 hours and a half, 37 hours, and 90 hours for 100%.
Paula's going for all 5, baby. I've said 10 and 42.
I'm gonna cry.
Alex has said 11 and 40 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay. So it looks like 3 points each for me and Alex. So
Hey!
Damn it!
Main story is 9.5 hours.
Okay.
Main and extra is 42.5 hours. So you've just edged it in. And completionist. Do either of you want to hazard a guess as what the completionist number is?
Over 100?
Is it 150?
Yeah. Over 150.
God damn it.
Over 200?
Over 200.
Motherfucker.
300?
260.
268.
Motherfuck! Okay. Jesus Christ.
I told you it'd be 200 plus. I told you.
I was greedy.
Wow. Okay. Well, the scores now is 79 Rick, 77 Alex, and 76 Alex. And 77. Oh my god.
77. You're on
can I do
74.
math? Can I even do math? I can't. And 65 for Paula. You're getting further behind there, Paula. You got to get up here.
I need to catch up
Yeah.
somehow.
Hang on, what am I doing? I'm making a mess of our document while I'm trying to like.
Rick,
I'll fix
I don't
it.
know what I'm trying to do.
Don't worry about it.
Stop.
I got you, buddy.
Little peek behind the curtain for the audience. At home.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Next week, I'm sure will also be a lot of completions because it's still vacation week for Alex. Talk to you all then.
Take it
Bye.
easy.